Hey y'all, welcome to Back on Homestead. My name is Marie. If you haven't been here before, please like and subscribe to our channel. And go take a look at the video that's called Reclaiming Our Homestead. It's the first video I posted. And it's all about what we're trying to do here, basically. And after we had a house fire in early June of 2022. And how we're kind of trying to put everything back together. With that being said, just kind of doing a different video today, much different format. I'm just kind of hanging out here in my backyard, in the human yard, right, as I called it before in the earlier videos, and just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stumbling blocks of homesteading and some of the things that I've been thinking of lately as I've been starting this channel. So it's kind of a little bit of a heart-to-heart for those who are watching, and it's a little early to kind of feel like I'm digging into this with a heart-to-heart, since I have only maybe 7 videos or something at this point, potentially less. But I felt like it was important to talk about because it's been weighing pretty heavily on me. I know I didn't post a video last weekend, and this is kind of the reason why. So in my prior videos, I was kind of walking through the dreams that I had for the garden and that space and kind of where we were going with those things. And I have been trying to essentially follow the blog post over at, I think it's like Simple Homestead Wife or something along those lines. I'll post a link in the description. But it's basically 12 months to a homestead if you do one task each month. And realistically, I wanted to kind of follow some of these Pinterest or blog articles that I find and see if they actually work in terms of applying them to homesteading, and how and how I've had to change things or maybe not change things, etc. So far, being in the month of February, so starting in January is all about reading and research, which is pretty straightforward, not a problem. It's a good time to do that when everything's kind of in a lull. Of course, part of that reading and research, I kind of dove into some of my midwinter tasks, and I was trying to kind of base videos off of what I should be doing in midwinter. And then we moved into February, which is all about planting the garden. So basically what happened in January, I'm doing reading and research, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense for those who haven't started a homestead, right? You're starting to read and learn up on what you're getting ready to do. But me, I have a lot of responsibilities that have already kind of existed prior to the fire, such as existing fruit trees that have been established, technically an existing garden, existing chicken run, existing duck coop, duck area, they're free range in the garden. But with that being said, there was a lot to do in mid-January, task-wise, that I needed to get done. And then, of course, there's even more to do now in terms of, midwinter, not mid-January. But there's even more to do now that we're getting towards the end of winter, and there's several tasks that I need to do, such as pruning the fruit trees and things along those lines. And, of course, I've been trying to clean up the garden as I go, and I'm running into a lot of roadblocks. So it got me thinking about this. What would happen if I just pulled back a little, right? And I started thinking about what I want my life to look like as a homesteader, and not necessarily the idea of what everyone else wants, in terms of what everyone else is thinking about a homestead life looking like, right? We have a lot of YouTubers out there who have these just huge sprawling gardens, and, it's a lot of them, that's their full-time job. As I've said before in earlier videos, this is not my full-time job, nor is it my husband's. And some of them don't have kids, some do, some have more kids than me, some have less kids than me. But at the end of the day, I do have responsibilities. I have responsibilities that aren't just the homestead. So I have to ask myself, what is it that I'm trying to do? And the biggest thing that I took away from that when I was thinking about it was I just love watching things grow. Realistically, it's not the motivators of, feeding my kids, non-GMO based foods and that kind of stuff, or, and of course self-sufficiency is in there too. I love the idea of being more self-sufficient and not as reliant. Especially a lot of us learned that in 2020, and even now, so with the prices of eggs going up and things like that, a lot of people are coming to the idea of wanting to be a little bit more self-reliant and self-sufficient, which I think is fantastic. I think it eases the burden on the system in general, and it's always nice to know where your food comes from in general. But realistically, I'm not trying to reach some kind of homestead goal of having food for a community or to sell on some kind of commercial scale. I'm just trying to provide for my family. And when I started thinking about this, because of the frustrations I was running into with cleaning up the garden and getting things kind of back to normal, I realized that fire set us back significantly. But it also made me wonder, how do I want to spend my time? Do I want to spend my time constantly fixing and growing and tending and maintenance and everything else under the sun? Or would I like to sometimes just sit out here and enjoy this beautiful backyard that we have, that I barely even get to sit in? And last summer, the whole summer just flew by. There was really no spontaneity in our summer. We do homeschool our kids, so we do get to take them places and things, not necessarily during summertime. But when I think of summer and I think of just getting in the pool or just lounging on the back patio or having, some burgers, outside or things along those lines, we did none of that. I'm sitting actually in our fire pit area, and we've only lit the fire pit once since we installed it in October. So it kind of goes to show you how much homesteading can really just suck a lot of time and money out of your life. Now, if it is like your main or even only hobby, that's a big difference. My husband and I have many things that we enjoy, aside from just homesteading, and my kids have many things that they enjoy that we want to be there and be supportive of as well. So this all kind of started in the late January, early February videos where I was trying to get the container garden set up. My thought process was, if I got the container garden area cleaned up, and then I cleaned up all of the containers themselves, that in turn would start cleaning up other areas of the garden, and I could kind of work my way out from the gate and kind of work my way out. And what ended up happening is that pea gravel that I was complaining about in a previous video, it has just been so bogged down with Georgia clay that I was trying numerous things to clean it out, basically. I tried shoveling it into a wheelbarrow, and then trying to strain it with basically a flower pot that had holes in the bottom. And then I tried to essentially rinse it underneath the one of the spigots. Before the spigot. Then I went out and got a wheelbarrow, because our nice wheelbarrows I didn't want to do this to. And then of course we had a broken wheelbarrow that needed new handles and a new wheel. And by the time I priced out new handles and a new wheel, it cost as much as a new wheelbarrow. Of course it was like a shallower one, but that's okay. And my thought process behind it was, well, I could just turn it into another container or planter when I'm done. But I drilled holes all throughout the bottom. My husband helped me out with that a little bit too. But we drained holes all throughout the bottom, and then essentially I was going to use it like a strainer and run it under one of the outdoor spigots. That also did not work. Even though I used, I think it was a 3/4 inch drill bit, if I remember correctly, the hole still got clogged up. It really is like a two-man effort, having to sift through the gravel while washing it. And then shoveling it up. I was literally shoveling maybe, I don't know, 4 square feet in about 45 minutes, and then rinsing it for a very long amount of time, and then turning around and realizing that I was using a lot of water, which even though we're on a well, I still like to be very, conservative when it comes to water if possible. And I was feeling really defeated. So then I went to the garden. I posted that garden video of me cleaning out the one bed with the old tomato bed with one of the songs I really like from a video game I played often. It was Final Fantasy X. Just had some relaxing music to go along with some of the cleanup. So I cleaned up that bed, and I was feeling pretty good. Then, a couple days later, Dapper Dan, we believe, got picked up by one of the bald eagles. So we lost him. And then I think because of the bald eagle attack on both Hound Dog Harry and then now Dapper Dan, that basically the ladies decided that it wasn't safe enough. So on the one side of the garden, there's a gate where the implements are that wasn't quite attached, and they all, or both, basically ran away to the creek that's in our backyard that connects to the large pond out here. Sometimes I'll refer to it as a lake. It's technically a pond. But they're alive. They're down there. I can't get them back. So now we've got a duck coop. It's just kind of sitting in there with a broken pump that's in the boat, and no washed pea gravel, nowhere in sight to think that I can even potentially lift that stuff up. And lots of ideas thrown around. But realistically, I started thinking to myself, okay, this was a major setback this year. So what am I going to do about it? Am I going to throw in the towel and say, I don't want to homestead anymore. I don't want to do this. Which, trust me, I think every homesteader has said that. We don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this, right? But inevitably, at the end of the day, I love watching things grow. And I love being able to go outside into my garden and collect food to bring in for dinner. It's pretty awesome feeling. I also love my chickens. They're super funny little animals. But I started thinking back to when was I the most successful at homesteading? And realistically, the answer that I came up with is when we were stationed on Fort Belvoir, which is in Virginia. And I had this small area. I would say that it was a roughly, I don't know, probably like a 16 or 20 foot in length and maybe 10 feet wide space that was in the backyard. And that was my garden area. And I produced tons of food, more food than I can eat. I brought food to my coworkers during that time. And I was making my own homemade baby food for the girls. We were cloth diapering. I was making my own laundry detergents. I was making my own cleaning supplies. And really, homesteading looks different for everyone, depending on where you live. I mean, it could be not even just, do you live in the country? Do you live in the city? Do you live in Alaska? Do you live in Georgia, Florida, right? Extreme temperature differences and climate difference, the mountains versus the plains versus, sand and that kind of thing, tropics or whatnot. And I feel like there's an image in your head of what homesteading is supposed to look like. And you can get so enthralled by it that it's almost like when you put too much food on your plate and you're like, my eyes are bigger than my stomach because I loaded down this plate because everything looks delicious and I'm not that hungry. I can't eat that. So I feel like with homesteading, you see all these beautiful plants and flowers and vegetables, and you see all these examples of these beautiful gardens with like long rows of beds and things like that, and everyone goes, that's a homestead, that's what I want to do. Or goats and pigs and cows and whatnot. And I don't know if we're in that phase of life right now. And the channel overall has been great, the YouTube channel, because I think that it put a light on some of this for me. And I was like, well, do I just give up? Do I just end my YouTube channel now? Don't really have a lot of followers at this point, so I'm kind of like, I could just stop. But then I was like, no, because I want to go back and see this. I want to see how things evolved and my thought process and such. It's almost like having a running garden journal for me, but in video format. So I really deeply appreciate it. And I think that it's beneficial to other people to hear it too. And it might not even just apply to you in terms of homesteading. I think it applies to any kind of dream. I think it's okay. You know, we are taught over and over again, don't quit, don't give up on your dreams. And I don't think that's the exact correct vernacular to use in these situations. I think that there's dreams that come and go, that make us who we are. And really, there are times and seasons in our life where some of those dreams are more practical, and sometimes it's just like it's not that season for it. And you have to be allowed to give yourself some grace to realize that it's okay to scale back, or to even pause or reinvent the dream, right? Or even completely change it if you want to, like, if you just said, I wanted to homestead, and when I started, I realized it wasn't for me, and I had this vision of this and that, that's totally fine. So my big thing is when I was really coming down to it, and I started thinking about me following this blog post that they'll do one thing every month for 12 months to basically get up and running towards a homestead. February just says plant a garden. It doesn't say plant a garden that has 7 4 foot by 10 foot beds and a container garden with 2 greenstalk towers that have like 42 pockets per tower, and several, probably upwards to 25, 30 containers, and then a whole cottage garden, for your ducks, right? And then trying to grow things and, for your chickens too. It just says plant a garden. And I started thinking about that. I was like, maybe this year I need to scale back after what happened. Like, I think that it's important to almost start small again. And I'm disappointed because I'm sure that it will have its disadvantages, but the time that is saved on that will be so huge. I mean, I got so enthralled into the reading part too. And I started adding even more onto my list of things to do, because I was like, well, it's midwinter. I have to do this. I have to put ashes on my fruit trees. Now I'm gonna have to prune them. I gotta build a bat house. I didn't have to do those things. No one's putting any pressure on me to do that. No one's putting any pressure on you to do that in your space, in your dreams, right? Like, we are the inventors of them. We're allowed to take charge of our own dreams. And decide when to do them and how that looks, and also be allowed to let them go. So instead of shutting down my YouTube after only like a month or so of doing it, instead of like completely not growing anything this year, I have decided to pull back. I have decided to see what life will look like for us, starting very small. So I am going to change course, because obviously this isn't working. So I'm going to change course a little bit here in order to give myself a little time, give myself a little grace, build back up slowly. And then as I take on these tasks, then say, hey, was there anything that I couldn't grow because I didn't have enough space? Was there any food that I kept buying a lot from the grocery store that I could have grown myself if I had one more raised bed? Is there, or was it just enough, right? Was it just enough? Did I have an abundance? Did I grow too much of something? Did I find that I had enough time? Did I find that I didn't have enough time at all? Did I find that I had more time than I wanted, and that I could put it towards that energy towards something else? And I think that that's a good way to start, because a lot of us get really excited, specifically this time of year when the seed catalogs start coming out, where we're just like, we want it so bad. We want that dream. Like I can see it as I close my eyes. We want that dream of the sprawling gardens and the flowers and the vegetables and the butterflies and all the little buzzing critters. Just, it's so great. It's so magical. But at the end of the day, what is the point of it if you're super stressed out and can't enjoy it? What is the point of it that you're so busy that you can't even savor little moments with your family, because it's just like, oh, I gotta really hit the garden today, you know. Oh, I can't do that today. I gotta go out in the garden. Oh, I can't do that. I gotta go get weeds in the garden. Oh, I gotta go prune fruit trees, right? All that type of thing. And everyone's different with this, like I said before. But really, for me, I'm not doing it well. And at Belvoir, I had a smaller space, and I was working on it very well. I had a good life balance. I was working full time, even out of the house. I work remote now. So, you know, there's a lot to that. And my husband's crazy hours when he was still in active duty military, right, in the Army. And I think about that and I'm like, man, we were really doing stuff though. So I think I'm going to still follow this blog post. I think I'm going to follow it. But I think I'm going to follow it very literally. So instead of being like, well, I did this reading and research and now I got to do all this and then plant a garden and that means my whole garden that's over there, I'm going to scale it down. I'm just going to plant a garden that is manageable for me this year. So my idea for this year is that I have 2 7-tier greenstalk towers. They each have 42 of the leaf pocket size. And I'm going to set up both those greenstalks and maybe use one of my stock tanks that I used to brood chickens in as a raised garden bed. Not sure yet. I might just use the greenstalk towers this year. And I think I'm going to set them up here in the backyard, not out there, so that I don't have the pressure of, I got to clean this up, while also going into the garden season. I just don't think that that's a manageable or realistic idea. So I'm going to set up a space where I can visually see my garden, which would be my 2 greenstalk towers. I'm going to manage it well, and I'm going to eat from it. And if I find that as we start going into fall and things like that, you know, maybe I can take on more, we'll take on more. So really what I'm trying to say is that it's okay to dream, and it's okay to dream big, but it's also okay to change the plan if that dream is no longer fitting your life in that season of your life. That is okay. It is okay to disappoint others too. There's several people who were really excited to see where this was going to go, and sometimes I feel in many ways I'm letting them down, but they're not living my life. You know, they don't have to come over here and clean those garden beds out. They don't have to come over here and pick up all of that stuff, right? So realistically, it's okay sometimes to disappoint people to keep yourself at peace, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. And I feel like this is a good way that I can be a better mom, a better wife, and a better homesteader, just to have it in a much more manageable scale that matches my current life season. So with that being said, the future videos are going to be probably different. You're going to be probably seeing a different setup. And, you know, and if I post once a week, that's great. If I don't, I'm going to give myself a little grace, right? Because realistically, I started this channel for myself, to motivate myself and to motivate you, to show you that it's okay like these things that just feel very overwhelming, and how we work in small steps towards it. But what I'm doing is I'm actually going to start working in small steps toward it instead of taking this big thing and trying to tackle it all at once. I am going to start doing small steps and swallow my own advice. So, with that being said, I hope you'll still join me as you watch things grow. And I'm really excited to use the greenstalk towers because last year I didn't get to use them. I purchased them on a sale last year. And I think they arrived just before the fire. So I never really got to use them. I started setting them up. You can actually see it in the Reclaiming Our Homestead video. There's a section in the back where it's like really overgrown, and it's like swallowed up one of my tripod waterers and things. And you'll see like half the greenstalk tower in there. So really, I never really have gotten to experience growing out of these towers before. So I think this is going to be a really neat thing and a really neat learning experience. I was doing a little research on them that you can put about one large plant in each of the pockets. So that's 42 pockets. So obviously I have 2 of them. So you got 84 large plants, or you can put upwards to like 3 small crops per leaf. That's a lot of plants, if you go with that. That's a lot of plants. So it'll be really interesting to see what I yield out of that. And then kind of like I said before, following through this blog and each step kind of along the way, I feel like tackling the month-to-month items won't feel so overwhelming. And the maintenance on that has got to be even lower on those greenstalk towers. I think probably in the high Georgia heat that we get in the midsummer, I'll probably be watering it twice a day. I can't imagine it being all that difficult. So I would love for you all to follow me as I continue doing this. I do have another video that I want to post because I did start the bat house. I've cut all the pieces, but the weather has not been good until today, so painting it has been a problem because it's been really wet, and paint just doesn't do well when if you paint when it's wet outside. Even if you're in a building, it still doesn't cure as well. So I did cut out all the pieces, and I'm really excited about the bat house because we do have still a lot of containers over there that collected water over the season. So I'd love for those mosquitoes to get under control too. And of course I would, in my dream part, I would love to actually have future videos where we can maybe do some like night vision on a camera or something like that, where we can actually kind of watch some of the activity of the bats and things like that, and kind of see what they're doing. I think that'd be really, really neat. But I'm not trying to pressure myself to put that out too soon. I do, however, have to prune the fruit trees as well before the end of the winter time. So I will be trying to make another video about how I prune my fruit trees in the basket cut style. I am by no means an expert. I will be following a guide from one of the Backyard Homestead books, so I'll show you kind of the diagram of how I follow it to cut to prune my fruit trees in the front orchard down the driveway. So that'll be kind of a neat video. And then of course I'll show how I set up my greenstalk towers as well. But in the meantime, because February is all about planting the garden, I did make a spreadsheet of all the seeds that I have, as well as like their germination times and their sizes and that kind of thing. And I'll show you how I do that and how I organize that. So kind of all about planting the garden in that kind of sense. But because I'm changing gears a little bit here with the garden, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to plan a new layout for my greenstalk towers to see what I want to put and where, because I'm going to have to consider shade and all that kind of stuff. Since it is a 360 tower, there's obviously going to be sun considerations where literally one side of the greenstalk will be shading the backside and things like that. So I'll have to be kind of trying to figure all that out as we go. But I would love for y'all to stick around and see where that goes. And then, of course, as I said before, as we grow and do more homesteading things, maybe you can get a glimpse into what homesteading looks like, in my life, and maybe how you can incorporate it into your life, whether you're in the city or suburbs or the countryside. And don't let all the YouTubers and Pinterest things and that kind of stuff get to you as to feeling like you are not successful, you have to judge your own success by your output, right? You're going to have to determine what success looks like for you. And I have determined that what success looks like for me is growing things that I love and being able to make meals out of it, as well as, a little more self-sufficiency things, maybe like homemade cleaners and such, but just being a little more self-sufficient. So with that being said, I hope that this helped. I hope that you'll stick around and see where it goes, and stay tuned for more episodes. All right, y'all have a good one. Thanks.